now tuned in to the cold, hard truth. Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips@CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Good morning.
Such a good song. It is Martin Page in the House of Stone and Light.
We were rocking out.
Yeah. And
it's everything that you forget sometimes about.
That's a good song.
Yeah.
I was singing that the other day. I was like, oh, we have that in the rotation, but
Haven't heard it in a while.
Haven't heard it in a while. And I remember it just reminds me of my early days in radio when that song was a huge hit. And the House of Stone and Light is what the Native Americans call the Grand Canyon. So that's what that song's about. Anyway, kind of cool. It's Blake and Aaron. The show brought to you by Subway Eat Fresh. And the time is 7:25 right now.
Big news. I have some important news for you. Interesting news.
It's Blake and Aaron's Spilling the Tea with Sandy.
Cayman's top news headlines of the day from CMR.
Morning, Sandy. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
All right. What are our headlines this morning? This Thursday morning?
Yes. Happy Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got the royal visit that is continuing through the region. So they have been in Jamaica receiving what?
It's not Will and Kate, though, is it?
I'm sorry. Say that once more.
Is it Will and Kate?
Will and Kate. Yes, that's correct.
Are they coming here?
They're not. Remember we
No,
talked
they
about
are
that?
not coming here.
Right.
I don't get why.
Yeah.
Why not us?
I think that we had a royal visit already.
It's the LFT testing, isn't it? No.
We had a royal visit not that long ago, to be honest. So I think that, they probably want to spread it out amongst the territories. Like they don't want to seem to. We had Prince Charles.
Oh, yes. We had Prince Charles came, yes.
So I'm sure they don't want to appear to be favoring us in any way. So I guess.
Right?
But the funny thing is they're getting sort of a lukewarm reception everywhere that they're going. And a couple people have said to me, see, had they come to the Cayman Islands, we would have flung open, welcomed them with open arms. Not so much so. They're getting a bit of a mixed reaction as they are now visiting Jamaica. So, of course, the official authorities have rolled out the carpet for the royals. However, a large number of people actually gathered across the British High Commission on Tuesday, demanding an apology for slavery and reparations before Prince William and Kate arrived. And then there was some videos circulating on Jamaican local media about people sort of protesting and having quite a bit to say, which led to Prince William actually making some comments about slavery. So it was quite interesting that he did address it, and he basically apologized, I think, on behalf of the British Empire, and admitted that, what they had, the history of slavery and their part in it was completely wrong, and how much countries like Jamaica since then have contributed to the Commonwealth. And
well, that's what their tour should, that should be part of their tour.
Sorry?
Yeah, that should be part of their tour.
Yeah.
What should be their
acknowledgement?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The same, they had,
especially after the whole, couple years that they've had with their sister-in-law.
And he said that the atrocities should have never happened. And, I guess they're sorry.
Belize had some similar protests. They were supposed to go to some sort of cocoa farm or something, and they didn't go because people were protesting, about colonization and same sort of thing. So that's good though. I
guess most people are sort of wondering,
I'm sure they're okay.
Yeah.
It's like, they're fine. Everyone else that they got rich off of aren't. Yeah. That's fine. So yes.
Exactly.
We were talking,
kind of wondering, what do you do at this point?
We were also talking off there about the Queen.
So the Queen, obviously she's just getting older, and they're saying that she's having trouble walking lately. And, Prince Philip's, his it's been like a year. So they're doing a memorial kind of thing for him. And that she just hasn't, she's been needing a wheelchair sometimes. So, and they're trying to hide it or something. I don't know what, it could have been like a tabloid, one of those things, but
I wonder if she'll step down after the Jubilee's over.
Well, I don't know. I'm
kind of feeling she might.
She's,
she's like
96, right?
Yeah. She's up in age. It's amazing.
Listen, I'm probably going to be in a wheelchair at like 70 if I live that long, He's trying to hide it at 96. Good on her.
Mm-hmm.
Remain positive there. So a man is wanted for theft in Grand Cayman. He's been arrested on the BRAC. So Al Handel Pearson, 48 years old, is wanted for several offenses on Grand Cayman, and he was therefore arrested in Cayman BRAC on Tuesday after putting up some resistance, according to police. The officers were on patrol, my apologies, on Creek Road in Cayman BRAC, and they approached him. They say he's from Georgetown, but he must spend a lot of time in the BRAC because the BRACers seem to know him very, very well. And so he began to act in a disorderly manner, resisting arrest, and now and also holding a knife, which he was carrying on his person. So one of the officers involved was injured and had to be transported to the hospital. So he's been arrested for a number of offenses. And I don't know if we mentioned this the other day, but there was a vehicle a couple of days ago in the BRAC that was stolen, a rental, and then the person torched it. So there's some suspicions that he may be involved, because he's always getting caught in the BRAC, like breaking into homes and other stuff. So people are very suspicious of some recent activity there, given his presence on the island as well.
Well, that's doesn't make you feel comforted if you're over there knowing that he was just hanging out.
The one good thing about the BRAC is they seem to.
For how long?
They seem to know what's going on, even unofficially.
Yeah,
so they got a good moral road system going on the BRAC.
Mm-hmm.
So the Cayman Islands Postal Service is resuming air mail, air parcels, and EMS items for Canada, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Belize, and Bermuda, effective on Thursday. So that's today. So you can start, sending your packages back and forth. Just a reminder that APO is open. That's the airport post office from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, and then half a day on Saturdays from 9 a.m. until 12:30. So if you still use the Postal Service to send your packages, you'll be happy to hear about that.
Well, I wonder if all during this time they have been able to clear out the backlog of that.
I'm still missing
that back room.
Yeah.
I mean, how much stuff is back there?
I'm still missing some
waiting to
stuff.
be delivered.
Well, some people leave too when they're not going to go and claim it, so it just kind of piles
True.
up.
Yes. So 2 accidents to report this morning. The first one was on Mangrove Avenue, happened shortly after 3 a.m. and it has left single vehicular collision. Was it Mangrove the same one that they just put all the speed bumps on?
Yeah, it was. Was it Mangrove? Yeah, it was one of those two.
I think
Mahogany or Mangrove. Yeah.
I think it's Mangrove. I'm gonna go down there later on.
So
I'm
maybe the
pretty sure it's
speed.
Mangrove. So
Okay. So that
a
was in
single,
that same area.
yeah, single vehicle has ran into um, a fence, and it looked like it took out electricity because
What time was that at? Was that around
shortly
3?
after 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's when I think our power went off
Power
a
went
little
out.
bit around there, and we're closest to that area.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why. So it impacted a power pole as well.
They're like
a
magnets.
fence,
These power
and
poles. They like cars.
I don't get it. They
Yeah.
jump out
They
into
do.
the
They
road
just
all the
jump right
time.
out in front of you.
And then you just drove by a car accident over on
yeah, I was
Clifford.
getting to that one as well.
Mhm.
There's one that ran into a fence by the public beach in Spots.
Oh no,
Yeah.
there's 3 car accidents because Blake
there's
just
another
drove
one.
by one on Linford Pearson.
There's a 3-car
Oh.
fender bender.
Yeah.
Okay.
It may be moved now. I don't know. By now, that was 45
Yeah.
minutes ago. But it was blocking the left lane on Linford Pearson right before you get to the circle to go over to Jose's Rubis.
Oh wow. Okay.
Or Agnes Way.
Agnes,
it's called.
Yeah.
So Spots.
That's crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, the one in Spots took out a concrete wall.
Oh, not Coral.
Wow.
Not Coral. What was it? Coral Reef or whatever that wall was that was taken out before.
Mm.
Hopefully not that one again because they just
No,
fixed
not
it.
that one again. This is a different one.
I bet traffic's a mare this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, those are some of your headlines for today. Oh, I just want to remind folks who live in the Windsor Park area, the National Roads Authority is going to be having a meeting this evening. So please come out and attend. It's going to be at the, oh gosh, what's the name of the church again? It's a local church right there in Windsor Park. Let me just get that for you. I always forget church names. My apologies. But in any event, you can come on out. The NRA has been doing an entire sort of press junket where they're going around to all the different districts. They started, I think, in East End, and they have made their way around. And just informing people of what projects they have coming up, their road works sort of all over the island. Some will directly impact particular neighborhoods. And of course, the Windsor Park area is one of those. So please come out to the meeting this evening. I believe it's the Wesleyan Holiness something Church. Churches always have the longest names. But we will definitely post that on social media. So yes, it is the Georgetown Wesleyan Holiness Church at number 174 Anthony Drive. It will be in the church hall. So the NRA will be presenting and answering any questions on local and national transportation issues and projects. And the RCIPS will also be in hand to talk about traffic and community policing issues. So this has really been quite a good effort because the attendance, we'll live stream it as well, but the attendance has been very good. So if you live in the Windsor Park area or any adjoining area and flow of traffic in that area is a concern to you, please come out to the meeting this evening.
Okie dokie.
Perfect.
7 o'clock.
Yesterday, we flipped the switch on 89.1.
Oh my gosh, I was so excited. I heard it.
Yeah.
I had to go to the car because I don't have a radio really in my house. But yeah,
so Bobo 89.1 is on. There is no audio at the moment, but we were doing some testing yesterday with our news product, which sounded good. And of course, you start on Bobo on Monday morning.
On Monday, yes.
Wow.
So we're gonna have to tighten up. We have to tighten up our ship here on Kiss FM.
No more chitty chatty.
No more.
I know. Yeah,
know.
because right now I'd be 5 minutes into overtime already.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Gotta be on air on the radio.
We're gonna have to be on it. Let's do a practice run tomorrow, 7:20. 5
All
minutes.
Right. No, I'm here. I've been getting up earlier, so I'm ready.
All right. Sounds good. And we'll see you tomorrow. All right.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
All right. A segment with CMR. I'm Blake and Aaron brought.
All right. So yes, Monday, 2 more days, we're gonna be on the radio. And you know what? I was actually listening to it yesterday as they were testing it. Like I said, I got my little car, a little toot toot, and I was listening to the radio and I was like, oh my gosh, it's happening. It's finally happening. So, in case you've been living under a rock, good morning to everyone. Did I send out the notifications? Oh gosh, hold on. Sometimes I forget. Somebody just reminded me, send them out. And of course, I have forgotten, haven't I? All right, hold on. Let me send out to my WhatsApp group. So, yes, folks, in case you have been living under a rock, please be advised that on Monday morning, 7:30 a.m., we go live on 89.1 Bobo. So they have the antenna up. I think, when did Blake tell us the antenna was up? From like Thursday or Friday? Anyway, the antenna is up and they've been doing their technical stuff. All the engineers are on island and they're doing all that wonderful stuff that they do. And so he messaged me yesterday and he's like, turn on 89.1. Can I tell you, I don't even know how to fix the dial in the car. Like it's, but I've discovered something after 5 years of having the same car. It seems to find new stations on its own. So I just had to go through all of them, and there are a lot. But eventually I came to it and I was like, oh, it's already there. So the car seems to hone in on when a new frequency has been added. So that's pretty cool. So yes, I was like, oh, okay, modern technology, y'all. Absolutely love it. And it sounded good. They were doing like talk radio stuff. Now I'm noticing a bit of a delay this morning on my end when I'm trying to put up like messages and stuff. So give me a quick second. I'm gonna refresh my screen because I feel like the screen is doing something a little bit wonky. So let me just refresh it and then we can get into today's conversation. So how are you guys? Good morning. Here we go, refresh. All right, let me see if that's any better. I can pretty much tell right away. Yeah, that's much faster. It was kind of like crawling. Like I'd click on something and 10 seconds later it was happening. I'm like, no, that can't be right. So good morning. As you guys can see today, you can see me perfectly fine. Yesterday I had to do a little restarting of the computer. And I actually had to pull the battery out of the camera. So it was actually something with the camera itself. It just wasn't playing nice. So good morning to everyone. Let me turn on my light behind me as well. Morning, Marshall, Stephen, Barbara, Joshua. All right, give y'all a little behind the scenes. There we go, my little glow ball back there. So yes, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Evelyn. Hey, Mel, what's up? Yes, we talked about Belize not being happy with the Royals. What a hot mess. Those poor Royals. You know what? Things have actually changed in the world. And so I think the Royals used to enjoy this. I don't know. Did people ever protest when the Royals visited before? But I kind of feel like they have enjoyed this life of everywhere they go, the literal and figurative red carpet was rolled out for them. Protesting was probably not permitted or allowed. And, we live in very different times now, folks. And it's quite interesting, the expectations that people have of the Royals. And I know a lot of people were really disappointed in how the Meghan Markle story ended. And Harry, because, here was an opportunity for the Royals to show that they were inclusive and they were not totally whitewashed in their own family. Although historically we know they are not, but they've hidden, any semblance of ethnicity that has occurred in the royal lineage has been really, really well hidden. And they even the portraits back in the day, even if somebody had like Spanish heritage, because a lot of these royal families all married each other. They were all cousins, maybe sometimes very close cousins, other times distant cousins. And they just continued to marry each other to try to keep the bloodline as pure as possible. And royals married royals. It's just what it is. You did not marry a commoner. And so, you had the Spaniards who would mingle a little bit, but a lot of times it was like the Germans and the English lineage. I think they were really quite close for quite some time. If you go back and, have a look historically at how they intermarried and where they came from, you'll see that there's some really, really close ties there. So quite interesting. But times have indeed changed, and the royals need to get into the 21st century. And I dare say that they don't really have as much of an appreciation for probably certain things that they should. I imagine they live a very sheltered life, for security reasons and just because they're royals. They can't be hanging out with any and everybody. So even when I look at some of these events that they attend, like the Royal Ascot, whatever, I look for diversity in that group, and you don't really see any. Like even what's his name, Prince Harry and Prince William, when they went to school, you never saw anybody of color in their friend group. I mean, it is a little bit unusual to look at their socialite, their Royal Society pictures. The Royal Social Club is not incredibly diverse. And so I kind of get why Meghan Markle would feel automatically when she went into that environment, probably a little bit different. But yeah, it is what it is. Here's Prince Martha Louis. She's from Norway. So the European royals, which are they the only ones who really still have royals even? What countries around the world still have a monarch? I feel like the list is pretty slim. Let me Google this because I'm interested now. It's not very many. And I feel like most of them are still like European countries. So we have the royals in Europe. Let's have a look here. There's an actual graph here with them. Let's see who they are. We have, interesting. Yes, has there any in recent history, like in the past 500 years, have there been any royals that were Caribbean royals or people of color? I feel like we missed out on the royal life. But let's just have a quick look and see. So here we go. We got Belgium, Netherlands, Norway, Denmark, Liechtenstein, that's the principality, Luxembourg, Monaco, Andorra, number 7. Interesting. Queen Elizabeth. The Pope is considered a royal? Am I using the wrong number, Elray? Hold on. I thought we had the right number. No, we're supposed to have the right number. Hold on. Let me make sure that's not my mistake now. 93. Oh gosh. Is it 936, Elray? Or do I have the number wrong? Hold on. Hold on. I think maybe I've got the wrong one. So wow, these royals are really not diverse. I didn't know that Pope Francis was considered, the Vatican City is considered its own monarch. Really? We got Sweden, Spain, and Norway. So not an ounce of little flavor. In the royals at all. So it's interesting. I do know that my guy corrected the number, so let me just download it again. Maybe I took it down wrong. Okay, well there you go. It is what it is. I'm hoping that they understand the necessity to be more inclusive of everybody else. So I think it is hard for them though. Like I look at their family photos and whenever they have royal events, and I think to myself, wow. Okay. Yeah. And I think Europe has the largest number. Let me make sure this is the right number. 936. There we go. Let me just move this up a bit. So I think that thank you, El Rey, for noticing that. That was my mistake this time. So yeah, I do think that the royals have they have the Europeans, I should say, have the most royals around the world. And then I guess after that, probably the Arab countries. So like the Prince Allah Shakamakala of United Arab Emirates and those countries. And even them, they don't really marry anybody of color, to be honest. They seem to kind of whitewash their own monarchs. I mean, yes, they're Arab people, but they love to marry sort of blonde looking women and so on. So monarchs, we got England, Scotland. Let me just see here. Where else do we have? So we've got Europe, United Kingdom, the Netherlands, Sweden. Oh, Japan. So Japan is one that would stand out as an Asian country that still has a monarch. Morocco. Jordan, Kuwait, Bahrain. Who else has one? I don't think, are there any African countries that actually have a monarch? Scandinavian kingdoms of Sweden, Norway, and Denmark gathered in November 1917. Yeah, so they all had a certain look. It's very difficult to find anyone that really stands out. So, of course, they still have places like Jamaica listed as parliamentary constitutional countries that have a monarch. But Jamaica's prime minister during this visit actually made it quite clear to the royals that soon they will have no affiliation with the monarch at all. So, yes. So they're soon not going to have that connection. So it's quite interesting. But they've been treated as part of their royal visit. Well, I guess, in Jamaica. They had a state dinner at King's House in St. Andrew. Looks like maybe that was last night. So the opposition leader, of course, was there with his wife and others. But yeah, it's interesting. So she used a Jamaican designer. This is Kate now. They try to be as PC as possible. So on her first day, she was wearing a orange and white ensemble on the second day, of her tour of Jamaica. And she was dressed in an Alexander McQueen blazer and slim leg pants, which I think she likes. And then she accessorized her outfit with an adjustable pearl and bangle. That was it? Pearl and bangle. by Jamaican designer Lashwandla Bailey Miller. Mhm. So, people still care about what women wear, apparently. I don't see anybody talking about what Prince Williams was wearing, who it was made by, but nonetheless, her white and orange ensemble is a conversation piece in media, like for real. And her Jimmy Choo Romy 85 leather pumps. Like, do we need to know all that detail? Really? Okay, then. It's just so funny how women are still looked at. Let me show you guys this. It's interesting. Like, people care with what we wear. Like, it's important what we. This is why people are going out there spending $130 on clothes that they don't need, because y'all are pressuring them. This is a Jamaican gleaner. Big shout out to them. So there's her ensemble with her matching orange handbag. Oops. Let's go back to that one. There we go. And they go to great deal of information to tell you even what her shoes are. Who cares? Obviously, people care, and that's why we're here telling you about it, because I guess y'all might be trying to be fashionable too. And I saw something on what is the name of the so the first day, Prime Minister Andrew Holness, told the Duke of Cambridge that Jamaica intends on removing his mother, Queen Elizabeth, as head of state. It's been done recently was it Barbados? The Duke and Duchess continued day 2 of their visit to Jamaica to mark the 70th year of the reign of Queen Elizabeth. So it's so interesting that they're going to countries who, in fact, will soon not even be part of the monarch and really want nothing to do with the monarch. But, they're still going to be courteous and extend a little bit of a red carpet. So here he says that he agrees with his father, the Prince of Wales, who said in Barbados last year, I think it's Barbados, yes, that has removed her already, that the appalling atrocity of slavery forever stains her history. And he wanted to express his profound sorrow. Well, I have my suspicions about who allegedly asked the question about Meghan's baby and how dark the baby was going to be. And I honestly think it was the father. I don't think it was William, although William might have been thinking it as well. I do think it was probably the father, because they say these things, oh, we're so sorry for slavery. And, oh, you must forgive us. We never meant to enslave you, truly. And, but outside of the UK, they're, like I said, dealings with people of color would be extremely limited when they go, I guess, to a public event. They can't help but run into someone of a different ethnicity. But in their inner circles and in their outer inner circles, I just don't feel like it happens very often at all. So St. Martin's in the house. Hey, Jonathan. Someone sent a piece about the Queen being portrayed in the Bridgerton series, saying a whole lot of them have passed their sell-by date, meaning the royals, and they're talking about this consort of George III being Britain's first, was she, ? Britain's first Black queen. And of course, even if she was, when you look at photos of her, you could see how, she might have had a little bit of curly hair, but even the makeup and the way that she was portrayed in portraits, I don't know if that's actually what she looked like or not. Maybe they kind of took some creative liberty and how they made her look. It's easy to say don't see color. Somebody sent me something. I think it might have been Damien, actually. Damien, you were the one, I think, who sent me that, about how the West is reporting on what's happening in Ukraine and how there is a tinge, more than a tinge, let's be honest, of do we want to call it racism? I don't even know that people sometimes know that they're being racist because they're just so used to it. But I did see a video about this, Damien, from that Indian lady. What's her name? She does a lot of interesting videos. But she did one on this, and trust me, it's amazing what they have found on the reporting of the news in just the news reporting. And so she was talking about that, and it's very interesting. Yeah, let me show you a little bit of her video, because honestly, I'm not surprised that Ukrainian people, like I said, I've never seen a person of color, except now I know that Miss what's her name that was born here, she was actually from Ukraine, which I never knew that, but that was quite interesting. Esther Henderson. But the reporting is so, sometimes I think people can't help themselves. And they have to be very conscious to be appreciative of other cultures. And so when people say, we don't see color, or we don't see race, or we don't see ethnicity, or we don't see rich and poor, that's a lie. Everybody sees it. Tammy, don't worry, we're gonna have plenty of time for Triple C today. But let's just have a look at this, and then we can move on, because I know quite a few people have brought it up, and I feel like people think that I'm avoiding this issue when I'm really not. It is just, to me, it's not surprising, and it is what it is. And I don't know if we can ever really change it. Like, I hope we can, but I guess the change starts at an individual level, right? So let's just have a quick look at this, folks. Tell me what you guys think.
You've seen the situation in Ukraine. You've seen how the world is responding. Now let me show you how the world is covering this invasion. I'm talking about the media, especially Western channels. How are they covering Russia's invasion? With blatant racism. Let me say something at the outset. As journalists, we do not filter hardships and pain. We do not see caste, color, or gender. And we have stuck by this principle. When the Taliban stormed Kabul, we stood with Afghans. When Ethiopia attacked its own people, we questioned them. When unarmed black teenagers were gunned down in the US, we joined the outrage. Today, we are doing the same. We see the plight of the Ukrainian people, and we have reported on their hardships. But what about the Western media? They too are reporting on the crisis, on the war, on the refugees. But they do not see hardships. They only see race, the color of your skin, the color of your hair. Let me show you exhibit number 1. This exchange happened on the BBC, the so-called Guardian of Unbiased Reportage. Listen to how their panel describes the refugees from Ukraine.
It's very emotional for me because I see European people with blue eyes and blonde hair being killed.
People with blue eyes and blonde hair. That is why the so-called expert on the BBC is emotional, not because the people are homeless, not because their country is being invaded, but because their hair is blonde. On social media, a lot of people are defending the BBC. They say it's a guest, not their anchor. Let me take you back to September last year. Another guest was speaking on the very same channel, South Asian expert Christine Fair. She called out Pakistan's links with the Taliban. Do you remember what the BBC presenter did? She shut her down. She said it was violating the channel's unbiased coverage. So exposing terror links is a violation. Blatant racism and white supremacy is fine. Gold standard indeed. Now for exhibit number 2, NBC News from the US. Listen to this.
These are not refugees from Syria. These are Christians, they're white, they're very similar.
Very similar to us. How so? Because the Syrian refugees are Muslims, their skin is darker, their hair is not blonde. So Europe does not want them. And remember, this is not being said at some white supremacy cult. This is happening on live television. Exhibit number 3, CBS News, another American broadcaster. Their reporter is appalled by the war. Not because there is death and destruction, but because it is happening in Europe.
Like Iraq or Afghanistan, this is a relatively civilized, relatively European city where you wouldn't expect that or hope that it's going to happen.
So Iraq and Afghanistan are uncivilized countries. Their people are uncultured. Their regimes are irresponsible. So they deserve war. They deserve hundreds of bombs and years of occupation. What about Ukraine? According to CBS, no. Ukraine does not deserve war or hardships because Ukraine is civilized. And now for the final exhibit. This one is not from the West. It is from Al Jazeera in Qatar. This anchor simply cannot comprehend the idea of European refugees.
What's compelling is just looking at them, the way they're dressed. These are prosperous, I'm loath to use the expression, these are prosperous middle-class people. These are not obviously refugees trying to get away from areas in the Middle East that are still in a big state of war. These are not people trying to get away from areas in North Africa. They look like any European family that you would live next door to.
That reporter is confused about the refugees. They look middle class. They look like Europeans. How is something so bad happening to them? Well, this is what systemic racism looks like. Do you remember the 2015 refugee crisis? Around 1.3 million people sought asylum in Europe. Most of them were from Syria, Afghanistan, and Nigeria. Do you remember how the West reacted? They shut their borders, they herded the refugees like cattle, and they branded them as terrorists. Back then, Western reportage was quite different. Let me show you what the BBC did. They prepared 7 charts depicting the refugee crisis. Let's focus on chart number 5. Which European countries are most affected? Now remember, this war was in West Asia. The bombs were dropping on West Asia, but this was the BBC's big concern. Which European countries are most affected? Now, just to be clear, we welcome what Europe is doing to host Ukrainian refugees. They deserve all the help. Our question is, why just Ukraine? Ukraine is not a member of the European Union. It is not part of NATO. So what?
Well, folks, I'll send you guys the link. You can definitely watch the whole thing. But, you know, it's interesting. And I know this discussion always makes people uncomfortable. But these are facts. There's factual. It's obvious how people see Ukraine as different than other places that have been invaded. Or, you know, I've had people reach out, well, why haven't we had this type of coverage about Syria and the Syrian people? And maybe there's an all too obvious reason that most of us are simply not willing to discuss or don't want to have that conversation. Anytime you bring up anything with race, there's always a good group of people like, oh yeah, I don't want to talk about that anymore. Let's just move on to something else. Let's just ignore it. We're the Cayman Islands. We don't have any race issues. We don't. And then every once in a while it pops up at like a football game. You know, a week and a half ago, there was a football match and I heard the N-word was being used and the private school versus public. I mean, it's just absolutely so ridiculous on the one level, but I think that we keep missing opportunities to address it because we don't want to talk about it. It makes us uncomfortable. And because it makes us uncomfortable, it never gets addressed properly and no one ever says what's really going on here. Let's see how we can be more inclusive at all levels. Caymanians, we need to be more inclusive of people as well. I saw a Jamaican lady. I think she works, somebody said she works for Island 98.9 or 8 or something. I think that's a Compass-owned station. And she had made some comments about all Jamaicans being treated a certain way in the Cayman Islands. I think we showed this yesterday. And my thing is, first of all, the statement isn't true because it's not. I hate when people say everyone and all because those are terms that exclude the possibility of anything else happening, and they simply are not true. I think probably 80% of the people, 80% of Caymanians have some sort of Jamaican connection, and we welcome Jamaicans into our families. We're married to Jamaicans. We have half Jamaican children. There's this connection there. Maybe there's a 20% that would never, you know, engage in that. But even if you have 20 or 10% of something happening, that percentage can still have a significant impact on your entire country, right? And how people feel. And whilst I don't agree with her statement, and I think her statement is factually incorrect, I still can sympathize with why she might feel that way. And someone said to me, she's a public figure on a radio station. How can she be so irresponsible? And I said, well, you can't tell people how to feel. People feel how they feel. And so if someone feels like maybe that's been her experience, like she feels like just because she's a Jamaican, she has been treated differently in the Cayman Islands. I don't know what her point of reference is. I don't know if she's traveled anywhere else in the world that she could say, well, this is comparable or, but hey, Jamaicans were in Ukraine saying when they got back home, thank God we're now out, because during this crisis, we really saw that once you were a Black person or a person of color, you weren't getting on that train first, right? Everybody else was going to get on and you were going to be pushed out. These are facts. And I think that until you accept the facts for what they are, then it is what it is. So Mendoza, thank you so much. Yes, so Wilson Mendoza, folks, is being ridiculous again. So in case you missed it, this is the man in West Bay, down Lisa Lane, who continues to torment the family that lives there and continues to block their access, their legal access point to their home. Something is seriously wrong with this man. That's the only conclusion that I have been able to come to. And now they have a court order that has instructed him, and he can't instruct anybody else, to block the access way. And guess what? He's still doing it. The authorities simply need to put him in jail. It's quite simple, actually. Mendoza has the type of personality, folks, where he is simply not going to stop. Some people are like that. You have to appreciate what you're dealing with. And he is that type of person. He will never stop until he's made to stop. And so they have the injunction. I don't know how difficult it is to enforce an injunction in this country. It really should not be that difficult. Go back to court, have an emergency hearing, and make the judges say put him in jail. They will instruct the police. Of course, the police aren't going to do it on their own. So they will instruct the police on exactly what it is that they need to do. So he's put up some bricks. I'm going to show you guys some pictures here. He told the police, he also is the type of person who is so incapable of being honest. He put up these bricks, and he has now told the police that, oh, well, those bricks are not on my land. You see, he thinks he's so smart, but in actuality, he's actually pretty stupid. Because if you read the injunction, it made it very, very clear that this was not a question of his property, because the right-of-way, the access way, runs over multiple properties, right? And it said that no one would be permitted to block this access way, and he certainly could not instruct anyone to do so. So it's a far-reaching order, and yet here he is again putting blocks right in the way. I mean, there's that where you see he has those speed bumps. That is the access point to the other home behind him. So once again, emergency services can't get through if they need to get in there. The residents can't get to their home. It's just happening all over again. And what is being done? I don't know. We're sitting down waiting. We're like, well, the NRA needs to do something. The police needs to do something. Somebody needs to do something. And I think rightfully what needs to happen is that the injunction now needs to be enforced. Enough is enough. Stop playing with this fool. I mean, really? It cannot be that complicated. to enforce this injunction. I don't really know what the issue is with him in his head, but I do know that once the court has issued this injunction, what needs to happen, folks, is that it needs to simply be enforced. Sounds simple to me. What's the holdup? What's the issue? Enforce it. Look at this. He's idle. He has nothing to do. This is, cars can't get through. He told them, oh, it's not his property that it's on. So if it's not his property that it's on, does this mean this man is trespassing on somebody else's property? Or is this public domain? Can someone just go and take the bricks away? Well, I have people who are saying that they're going to do just that. If he says, well, it's not even on his property, well, there's a question then on whether or not, the bricks are free for the taking. And so there are people who were like, let's show Mendoza. Let me tell you what the problem is with this situation, folks. Yes, he's blocking 911 access point, which he has done before. We've talked about this before. 911 has had to get to Miss Lisa Adam in the past, and they were not able to get to her because of him. They literally had to get out, the EMT staff, and pick up boulders and move boulders out of the way. And it's absolutely disgusting that had to happen. When you have an emergency, heart attack, even a panic attack, time is of the essence. And this man is playing with people's lives when he continues to do this. And my fear is this is going to escalate where he and his family are going to be in harm's way. And I cannot believe that all this time, the police don't see it coming. The neighbors see it coming, but the police don't see it coming. The government and authorities, I won't say that they don't see it. I think they see it, but they're trying to follow everything like the NRA, the letter of the law, because if they don't, then of course he'll have legal remedies against them. But we see that even when they have followed the letter of the law, he still can take them to court and he can still get injunctions and he can still do all this stuff, although he has no case. He has now lost, is it 2 cases already on this? And he still keeps going. He's not going to stop. I guess he'll waste money and take it to the Court of Appeal, but his hope is, it'll take months for the Court of Appeal to even hear it, or then he'll take it to the Privy Council. And in the meantime, he's still tying up the process, and then he continues to breach orders and does whatever he wants. The courts can't act on their own. So the lawyer for the Adams family has got to go back to them, show them the proof of the breaches, and then they have to issue an enforcement notice. This isn't really rocket science, though. This should not take an exorbitant amount of time. In my opinion, the sooner it's done, the better, because it's going to be protecting him and his family, as well as the Adams family who've been tormented for the better half of 5 years now. People are legitimately getting fed up. And as someone who has been there protesting, someone says it's reckless endangerment. Beyond that, really. You get very emotional when you see this man and his attitude, his complete disregard for the law. And you do feel like tapping him on the head more than once, but of course you can't do that, because then the law is going to be throwing you in jail. It's just absolutely ridiculous. KK says if he was in Jamaica, he'd never be able to get the chance to see daylight again. Maria joining us from Barbados. Good morning, Maria. Gabby says, lock him up, lock him up, lock him up. KK says they also need to do something with him. He's problems, and if it was the other way around, they sure would be in prison a long time ago. Unbelievable. Really, really and truly. Al, good morning. He says, Crimea River, Black Lives Matter. The selective outrage is sickening. Amazing how the world stopped for some people. For some, oppression is an everyday thing. Cannot disagree with those comments. Ms. Sue is wondering why they're taking so long, because unlike him, everybody else is trying to follow due process. Everybody else is trying to follow the law, and he just gets away with it. Marshall, because there's an ongoing court matter, the NRA can only do so much, sadly. And so, they have to follow, like I said, everybody else is law-abiding citizens. Everybody else is following the law, but Mendoza. He's the one who just gets a free pass until they get that enforcement notice. At this point, they can confiscate. They said they can confiscate his property, whatever. Listen, just put the man in jail. Send a very clear message that you cannot breach a court order. Court orders are considered very serious things, folks. Right? So show people, folks, judiciary, that when you breach a court order, that means that you're going to be going to jail. The lawyer for the Adams families, Mr. Wade DaCosta. Wade, please get on it, because this is just absolutely ridiculous. Shan Lee wants to know what would happen legally if people looted those blocks, since apparently they aren't in his land and sitting in the passageway. It's an interesting question, Shan, and to be honest, I don't want to be the one to tell y'all to go loot the man's property. But if his property is not even on his own property, there is a potential argument that, well, who do the bricks really belong to? You can't just go around putting your property on other people's property without any repercussions. Now, at the same time, that does not necessarily mean that you can just go and take somebody else's property, because we've defined what theft is on this program. So I do feel like it would still be theft if your intent was to permanently deprive him of it. But if your intent was just to move it out of an access way that has, their instructions, there's a court order to leave it undisturbed and do not allow foliage, don't build on it, don't, what's he doing with all this brick? He claims he's building a brick wall. He should not be permitted to do this. So I think on the one hand, if somebody goes there with a truck, a backhoe, and moves the bricks and puts them somewhere else, that might not be an offense, because in truth, you're actually hoping to enforce a court order, although the court hasn't told you to enforce it. Ultimately, I think the police will have to be the ones to enforce it. The ugly truth says if it was you doing that, you would have been tased, roughed up, and dragged off to jail a long time ago. Lord, you all know already. So just a quick update on my court situation yesterday. It was interesting. I can't say too much about it, except that yesterday was favorable definitely to our position. And we will be having another hearing where it should be then concluded, and then we can discuss it. So I don't want to say or do anything that could potentially impinge on, the outcome. So stay tuned. You guys are going to find it very interesting when it's all sealed and done. You'll be more than surprised at the shenanigans and the great lengths that people go to. When people know that they're wrong, that doesn't always stop them, even from a legal perspective, from trying to push the envelope. Believe me, you. So Jesse says perhaps the charges need to be filed against someone listed on his block and parcel. If his wife who's charged, well, you know what? They're both the property owners. And I think that the order includes the wife as well. So if she is allowing him to do this, I think that there's a real possibility that it could definitely happen. And you know what is so amazing about him is that he knows when to start acting like he has some sense. So remember, was it last year when he was trying to block it with his vehicle and the police showed up and they actually towed his vehicle? Guess what? He wouldn't use the wife's Mercedes-Benz to block it. He used his SUV, and they towed the SUV. And when they were getting ready to tow the wife's Mercedes, he quickly moved that. So he's no fool, folks, and he knows when he needs to literally get out of the way and do the right thing. not for the sake of doing the right thing, but just because he recognizes that, oh, shoot, look, the police are going to actually do something. They're going to tow my wife's car. Then all of a sudden he gets a little bit smart. All I'm saying is enforce the order, put the man in jail, stop playing around, because ultimately what's also happening is everybody else, including me, is looking at the judiciary. We're looking at the police. As the ugly truth said, we are all wondering, how is it possible that this cannot be enforced, knowing full well that if it was me or anybody else out there, the chances are that you would be in jail. They would be enforcing it against you like that. And so there's this ongoing like bias application of the law that just doesn't make any sense. All right, let's move on to Triple C, because I know y'all want to talk about Triple C. Okay. Well, in order for me to talk about Triple C, let me make a few comments first. Where's my notebook? Oh, yes. First of all, I never want private institutions to think that I am picking on them, because I mean, we equally talk about John Gray. And I don't want John Gray to think that I'm picking on them. Quite a few John Gray students have actually reached out saying, you know, it's a great school and this and that. And, you know, listen, I think all schools have the potential to be great, just like all children probably have the potential to be great. It's really a question of, first of all, parental involvement. Schools have a part to play in the education of your children. So you can have the best parents in the world and they're doing their best and whatever. But if schools are failing those children, then we got a problem. And that's why we talk about this whole thing being a partnership, right? Partnership between the parents, the teachers, the administrators at schools, the community. And the whole thing works, only really works when we all have our ish together. Yeah. Public schools, poor them, they always get the short end of the stick. Not always, but let me not use exclusive terms like always and everyone and never, because I don't like when people use them with me. So public schools sometimes get the short end of the stick in terms of our public commentary and our criticism. That's not always true. Because if you guys would go back in time and you would have a look at our reporting of school issues, we don't really discriminate whether you're private or public. Like, I don't really care. The same way I don't discriminate based on creed, color, nationality, district, Caymanians, non-Caymanians, whatever. It's pretty much, you know, the same in my mind. In June of 2021, no, first it was May of 2021 and then June of 2021, we talked about Triple C's failing reports, consecutive failing reports as a school. And I remember at the time that parents in particular, so this is now going back to 2021. The first article went up in May, and we talked about Triple C school failing students. That was the headline for that article. And y'all were up in arms. Sandy, how dare you talk about our beloved Triple C? We love Triple C. Remember this article? Y'all were up in arms. I can't believe Ma Road talking about Triple C. Well, we weren't talking about Triple C. We were saying that the school inspectorates, right? So the school inspectorate report were the ones who said that Triple C is failing. And to me, what the saddest part about this school is 70% of the student bodies Caymanian. So they're 500 and something students, 70% of them, probably even gone up now because I'm sure the expat parents who got any sense are like, oh God, how many 3 consecutive failing reports? Let me get out of here. So, you know, that's what has happened. It is what it is. I remember the comments at the time, especially on Facebook, being, oh, Triple C is a great school because we're a Christian school. They're grading us differently. I don't know what y'all are talking about. This, that, and the next thing. I was like, okay. June of 2021, Triple C has attempted to prepare parents for yet another failing report that's coming. Remember when Robert Langford sent out an email saying, heads up, it's coming. And once again, that one had 61 comments. You know, oh no, you can't be talking bad about Triple C. They got it together. As a matter of fact, this goes further back than that. Thank God for social media, boy, because boy, when you start looking stuff up on social media, all the kitten and caboodles come out. So in 2019, we received this, May of 2019. A comment was, this is CMR comment, no stakeholder meeting to discuss how the school will be addressing the recommendations to fix the curriculum and leadership concerns, ? Seems odd that the focus is on proving the school's inspectorates wrong by saying, hey, some of our graduates found good jobs and went to colleges. The report didn't say all students are failing. The report states that the school itself is the issue, despite that they have obviously had successful students. And we concluded, what an interesting response to a damning report. This was in 2019. What year are we in now, folks? 2022? You know, and of course they want to blame COVID for everything. So I'm sure the next report they're going to try and blame that on COVID. Oh, that's COVID's fault why we're failing. That good old COVID boy. They said at the time, as you may be aware, our school did not fare well in the government inspector's report, notwithstanding the fact that our students continue to, you know, this response, if I were a parent at Triple C, I would have been like, hold on a second here. You all don't have it together. So this is the art of deflection. When you see it, you need to recognize it. This is parents saying, you know, this is the school administration, my apologies, saying, oh, well, yeah, we got a film report, but let's look at something else. Their failure to address the issues, the real issues here, continues to haunt them to this day. Let me break it down for y'all. My little notebook. Child, I had to use my this notebook is normally reserved for my to-do list, but that day it's what I had on me. So I was like, well, I have to be writing in my to-do list. And I kid you not when I tell you I have 3.5 pages. See ya? Y'all might be able to read my scribble scrabble. That's 2 pages, 3.5 pages of notes about the hot mess that's going on at Triple C. Y'all need to do better in so many ways. So where do we start? I was trying to break it down as I was writing. And can I tell y'all I have a new favorite pen? It's these vanity pens. Oh my gosh, they write so nicely. But anyway, I still scribble when I write. And so I had to break it down. You can see my little numbering. Okay, I don't know if you can see. I kind of numbered it because there were so many things. And I was writing so fast. And the parents were talking to me and they were like, Sandy, this is Monday evening. This, and this, and this. And I was like, wow. First of all, what occurred to me is nobody's really listening to the parents. Now, I want to take my hats off to the parents because when you see parents get up and they say, hold on a second, we got a problem. And, we got to talk about it. It's serious because I feel like parents in Cayman are always very passive. Even when it comes to the protection of their children, the education of their children, they're like, yeah, we're going to work with you. You do what you got to do. They're very, very supportive. That's why we had all these comments on social media where they were like, oh, leave Triple C alone. They're doing their best. They're a good Christian school. And I'm like, it ain't got nothing to do with being a Christian school, in my opinion. This isn't about that. Someone even went as far as saying, oh, why do we have a British national inspecting American schools? I'm like, do the standards change because you're a British national? Like, that was just ridiculous comments. And it says because they gave all of them failing grades, especially if they taught anything about the Bible. So here you have parents, right, who were digging deep. And I don't know if some of these people are active parents or not, but they were digging deep in their support of this school and the failing grades. And I'm just going back to some of the comments that were posted back in 2021, right? Trying to make this all about religion. Oh, they don't like us because we're a Bible-based school. That is the most ridiculous statement that I've ever heard. Because first of all, almost every school in the Cayman Islands has some sort of religious affiliation, especially if they're a private school. And I mean almost everyone. Catholic is a private school and it's a Catholic school. Prep is affiliated with is it Universal Church, Elmsley. Triple C is affiliated with Church of God Chapel. Who is Truth for Youth? Are they still around? Truth for Youth? Who are they affiliated with? I don't even know. But these are all private schools that all have a religious affiliation. And so even at the time, when I was hearing this rhetoric about, oh, they just don't like us because we are a Christian school, I thought, you know what? Maybe this is a good argument for why you actually want to separate religion from other things. Ann responded to Old Dean and said, CIS is an American school and did not receive a failing grade. They don't rank schools on the curriculum, but on teaching and learning and attainment. There are many other categories, but good teaching is good teaching and attainment is attainment, whether you spell it color or color. Thank you, Ann. Big up yourself, Ann Briggs. She's an educator, former educator. Shaden, says, do you work for OES? I saw the inspection. It's simply not to compare apples to apples or orange to oranges when it comes to the curriculum. And so people were trying to make an argument that, oh, there's a different standard of the US versus the UK. And Anne says, listen, I'm a teacher with 19 years experience. So she doesn't have a doctorate, but she's gone all the way up to her education in EDS. So she kind of knows what she's talking about. And to me, parents, this is where y'all got to be careful. See, another private school, Grace Academy, all these schools have a Christian affiliation. Now, I don't know what it is about some of the Christian schools, but I'm telling you, some of them really need to get themselves together. Maybe they're teaching too much religious education and nothing else. And yeah, if you want to be a pastor, then maybe religious education is all you need to know. Montessori by the Sea. They got an excellent report. They're an excellent school. Folks, when you have experts trying to tell you something, you have got to take the time to listen. Look at what I commented at the time. It's sad that the community remains in denial about these reports when we look around and see the truth. What is this word that I put here? With their own, I don't think that was the right word even. How can we improve if we can't accept the truth? When things start to go wrong, folks, it is in your best interests to try to address them as quickly as possible. So Truth for Youth is affiliated with Church of God Universal. And then the other school is Church of God Chapel. Aren't they all Church of God? Like, I don't even get the dynamics of why we have so many churches and so many denominations and so many affiliations, but let's break it down. Okay, area number 1. And by the way, I've had both students and parents. A student called me yesterday, Miss Sandy, these are my complaints about CCC. And And some parents want me to really go for the jugular for the principal. And I'm going to tell you what my opinion is about this. I don't know the woman. I feel like I'd pass her in the street and probably still don't know who she is. I mean, I know she's Miss Karita's daughter, and that's about all I know. I don't know nothing about her. I've heard she's left several schools, not of her own volition. The number's on the screen, baby. 936-2626. So let's go through the areas. Number 1, school fees. Now, y'all know what I tell y'all. Don't mess with people money. Because believe me, you do that, and you might have a problem. So, school tuition keeps going up. Having said that, school tuitions across the board, like everything else, is going up. So, CCC might not be as unique as people think in that regard. Okay. Got a message last week that the school fees at prep are going up 6%, I believe is what this parent said. And she's like, we can't, we're working class people. We can't afford it. And I said, wow. I mean, I feel sorry for you because I'm a working class person too. And my daughter's in private school. Thank God, since she's been at this private school, there haven't been any fee increases. But, if the cost of living is going up, y'all talking about you want more money, you want more, minimum wage isn't enough. That means that businesses are going to have to pay staff more, and they're going to have to get it from the customers. So fees are going to be going up in everything. So yes, raise minimum wage as long as you understand there's a trickle-down effect, and it will raise everything else as well. Raise it, double it to $12 an hour and see if that solves your problems. Because I think a lot of people have a very naive understanding of how this all works when it comes to the economy. The easy fix is raise the minimum wage, they say. I say, really? That seems to defy logic and common sense to me. In fact, I say do away with the minimum wage, but then I guess it'd be people who'd be paying less than that if they could get away with it. So at Triple C, they pay something called a capital fee of $400 a year. Senior class, their tuition has increased by $1,200. Now, it seems to me that what is really happening with the fees, it's not that the parents are saying, we're not going to pay it, or this is ridiculous. They want to understand where their money is going and what it is that they're paying for. It is interesting because that ties into number 2, number 3, number 4, even number 6, right? So the fees that you're paying as a parent is going where is the question. That's all they want to know. What are the increase? What are we paying for? They talked about mold in the AC system. Are y'all aware that mold is a very serious thing? If you have mold in your home or in your schools or in your workplace, it can make you physically sick. It can impact your ability to think and to focus and to concentrate. And it impacts children who already have a less than fully developed immune system and lungs differently. Mold. The parents talked about trailers that are being used in the school. I didn't know that trailers were a thing still. So I don't know when these trailers went in. But not good. Right? Apparently, the school inspection report has said, do something about the trailer situation, and it still hasn't been done. Parents are complaining about these trailers being a safety issue. And by the way, if you don't have the inspector's report, let me tell you that you can easily find it online. And I'm going to look at the one from May of 2019. Let me just see here now. And then we can also look at 2020. A lot of parents are asking, what happens if Triple C doesn't get it together? Is the government going to step in and actually shut them down? It's a question that nobody seems to know the answer to be quite honest. And it seems like government has also said, in the interim, while the school is failing, there is nothing that they can do. They can't enforce or do anything to Triple C. So parents just want to know. Half the time they say the AC system isn't working. It's got issues. They've been promised a new AC system for many, many years. Hasn't happened. The school nurse has resigned and hasn't been replaced. These are all health and safety issues that are simply not happening. Kids have been said to have fainted at school, potentially because of the mold issue. A PTA rep left last year in like September, October after the first PTA meeting. The school has not replaced her, is my understanding. And so it's not the PTA, it's just a TA association, Teachers Association. There's not a partnership, and the parents, everything that they said led back to two broad issues. There's no partnership with the school. And number two, there's no communication. There's no effective communication. They just seem to be doing whatever they want. They're dictatorial in their approach. They tell us this is what it's going to be, and boom, that's what it is. Now, the school principal, who is Mendoza, what is her name? Oh, Lord. Lenora, which one is it? Lenora? Mendoza Hides seems to be taking the brunt of what is happening at the school. And let me tell you what I think about is probably happening here. Like I said, I don't know Lenora Mendoza Hides from The Man in the Moon. I do not know her. I don't even know if I've ever had a conversation with her. But the parents are focusing on blaming her. And I have said to them, I'm sure she can't do whatever it is that she's doing, whatever failure she's committing on her own, because she has a board. There is a school board and there is oversight at Triple C. Well, they're supposed to be. So if they're allowing her to they are allowing her, is it unfeathered power to do whatever it is that she wants to do? I mean, I don't know. But I do not think that the school principal can just do whatever she wants without some degree of accountability. So changing all the rules, which we're going to talk about here in a second, is she in a frolic of her own, doing whatever the heck she wants? Let's talk about the board for a second. I don't know who all the board members are, but apparently Roy Bodden is a board member. And he is also head of the church, is what I'm told. Interesting. So there is, according to their website, there is a 15-member board. Again, no list really of who these board members are, but everybody has said that Roy Bodden is one of the board members, but he's also lead of the church. Now, I know it's supposed to be a church affiliated school and a Christian school, but I think part of the problem, and this is where parents need to understand what's going on, is the affiliation between the church and the school appears to be the real reason why you're failing. It is not just a affiliation like other schools like prep and Catholic and whatever. It's like the church is trying to run the school and they're not educators. And they're making decisions that are based on their church thoughts and spirituality that have nothing to do with fundamentally sound educational decisions. Here's an example. They mentioned this previous lady who was there. I think her name was something Allen. Oh gosh, I gotta be looking through my notes, Jill. And she was a vice principal, and they said she was really good. They felt she was doing a great job. She was great with the parents. Jennifer Allen. And so everybody liked Jennifer Allen. They said the students liked her. She was doing a good job, all this kind of stuff. And guess what? She applied for the principal job and didn't get it because although she's a Christian and she goes to church, apparently that's how they know you're a Christian if you go to church. Because she does not go to their church, they wouldn't give her the position. She might have been qualified in every other way. But because she didn't go to, which is it? Chapel? Church of God Chapel? Sorry for you. You can't be hired as principal. Sounds a little crazy to me. But these are the types of decisions that the school is making. And so when we started talking about, wait a second, how can Roy Bodden be leader of the church and leader of the school, and you all don't see that that's a clear problem? All of a sudden this week at the board meeting, he steps down. How long was he leader of the church and of the school, by the way? Anybody can answer that riddle for me? And then he just had an epiphany that this is a conflict of interest for you to hold both positions. So he has stepped down as leader of the church, but will remain leader of the school. This is a problem. Anybody else see the problem? Folks, this is what I think. If you want your children to have Christian values and learn about Christ and be good little boys and girls and be afraid of God with his big wand and have those beliefs, that's why you take them to church. You take them to Sunday school. You take them to church service. You take them to mass. You take them to the synagogue. You take them to whatever you call it in your religion. The school does not have to fill that role. And it appears to me that when they're trying to do both, they will fail miserably in what is most important when you look at the inspector's report. Now, y'all need to decide what is important for an academic institution to be focused on. Is it going to be that my child can quote Bible verses? Their statement of beliefs. When you read the statement of beliefs, and I'm not saying that there's necessarily anything wrong with this statement of beliefs, but every single statement of belief on their website has to do with the religious aspect. God is the creator and sustainer of all things and a source of all truth. Okay. God maintains control over his entire universe. Well, he ain't got control of this school, apparently. Or God, he's sitting there going, y'all want to be blaming me for everything. Don't be blaming me for this mess. Number 3, because of sin, man tends to omit God and thus fails to relate himself and his knowledge to God, the source of all. This is church that is showing up in school. So all of these things, I'm going to show you guys the list here. Great and fine, but as I read this, I'm like, is this a church institution? Or is this a school? Which is it? I don't know. Fine. The home, the church, and the school should complement each other, promoting the student's spiritual. So it's always spiritual first, academic, social, and physical growth. In a school, you need to be focused on the academics. Take your children to church, folks, and in your homes, you teach them all you want them to know about the Bible, and you live by example. You live that Jesus-like life that y'all keep saying that you are all about. So everything on their statement of belief, they talk about a holistic approach. This little diagram should have spirituality in red because that's really what the school does well. That's what they focus on. They don't focus on nothing else. Folks, delve into the report itself, all 52 pages of it. The Office of Education Standards has said this school is failing. When we mention government schools that are failing, y'all be all over it. But when we first started talking about Triple C, you wanted to defend their position. It was not defendable then, and it's not defendable now. And finally, the parents have woken up and said, wow. Parents who have an option are pulling their kids out of school and they're taking them somewhere else. They've lost students. What does weak mean? That the quality not yet at the level acceptable for schools in the Cayman Islands, and schools will be expected to take urgent measures to improve the quality of any aspect of their performance or practice that is judged at this level. Whoa. Urgent. It did say urgent, right? Measures. What urgent measures has Triple C taken? At the time of this report, the principal was Mabel Richardson. She's since been let go, kicked out, booted out, whatever. And they're still failing. They have an entire list here of recommendations. Areas for improvement. Health and safety. Remember how we were just talking about they're increasing school fees? And the parents are saying, where is it going? And yet nobody can tell them where it's going. They don't see the money at trail. They don't see the improvements in the air conditioning. They don't see the children being moved out of the trailer units. They're having to leave a side door open because heaven forbid something happens in the trailers. Who's going to get out there to the poor children? All these things. Making arrangements for the safe storage of chemicals on site. Risk assessments for trips and visits and potentially hazardous activities on site. Keeping a formal record and maintenance of repair work. Some of these things are so incredibly simple. Obtaining an approved Cayman Islands Department of Environmental Health certificate. What are you saying? A health certificate for the school? And I don't know how long Miss Mabel Richards was there. Miss Mendoza just got there in January. But these are simple things that if they were not being done, we haven't even gotten to the complicated curriculum stuff yet. Something is wrong at that school. You know, you have a little checklist of the things that you're supposed to be doing, and getting a environmental health certificate should be at the top of your list. You got to make sure your children are in a healthy and safe environment. They didn't even have that. Improve leadership. Well, the parents are now saying, listen, there's been no improvement in leadership. And in fact, maybe it's gotten worse. When it comes to the fees, is it too much to ask for a private institution? And I don't know, this is a question for you parents. Provide some level of accountability for where monies are spent and what facility improvements are occurring, especially when you keep asking the parents for more and more money. They're saying they want to see financial statements. Now, I don't know if that's normal or not, but they have concerns why they're asking to try to understand why their fees keep going up. Now, when they ask the principal, and this is where communication is so critical, and when you don't have good communication skills, you probably shouldn't be in a leadership position. But here, you know, she told them the school fees are going up to keep the doors open. The parents were insulted by that response, and I would be too. And I'll tell you why. You are not the principal of Triple C to keep the doors open. You're not running this school, and the board certainly isn't managing the operations of the school to keep the doors open. we expect more for our money when we're spending it on our children than to just keep the doors open. Like I said, I don't know Miss Mendoza, but I thought to myself, let's hope she was having an off day when she said that and that's not the norm. Because that's incredibly rude, inefficient. It's not enough of a response for anyone to be satisfied. Keep the doors open? That's it? That's what you're here to do? That's why parents are paying. By the way, how much are they paying? Let me look at their tuition structure. That's why parents are paying thousands of dollars a month for you to keep the doors open. Let me see what they charge them. School fees. That's why you come and talk about school fees are going up. Let's see here now. So you have academic materials and book fees. Half the parents complain that kids don't even get any books, so they don't know what they're paying book fees for. So there's an annual capital fee of $400 per child. And the school fees go, you have textbook and academic material fees, anywhere from $350 for Chromebooks, grades 6 through 12. And then you have PK, grades 1, paying $250, grades 6 through 8. I mean, it's a whole list here. Uniforms, and we're going to talk about uniforms in a second. So there are associated uniform fees. You have an after-school program fee, so if you put your kids in that. A retreat fee, which is required. I don't know what the retreat is. You pay a PTA fee per school, or per family, sorry. Senior graduation fee of $175. Kindergarten graduation fee. Can I ask y'all a question? This is me growing up in the American system and honestly, legitimately not knowing why this happens in Cayman. Why do y'all have a graduation at every grade level? Like the child is going from year 3 to 4. Oh, let's have a graduation. They're going from like one baby class to the next. Oh, let's have a graduation. Why do y'all do that? Is this an English thing? Because I never technically went to an English school until I did law school. And as somebody said, all I had to do was learn which British words were spelled with the O-U-R. And then, you know, some of them I probably didn't get. And I just like, well, I'm not so sure this one is or isn't. I kind of only picked up on some. I saw the pattern of how they worked. And I would guess like color and certain words, right? But why? It's almost like you degrade what a graduation is. The only graduation I had in the US really is high school graduation. When you're done, you're in year 12. Woo, we made it. All these years of sacrificing, we're finally here. You get your college ring, your high school graduation ring. You're going to do prom. You're going to do your senior school trip. You know, it's a big deal. But when you do it every single year, to me, it's like, by the time you get to year 12, you're like, oh, I'm done with graduations. I just want to get out of here. Anyway, I digress. So they've got the graduation fees for very kindergartners. The PSAT testing, $25. AP testing, $160 per subject. So the fees run, it depends. If you do it annually, anywhere from $11,308, and then you include all those other fees. And then it goes down to, for the part-time, $5,949. So you do the math. So, yeah, okay. So parents want some answers about that. One of the things that has really upset parents recently is the uniforms. Ooh, honey child. And y'all know, you start to stress parents out about uniforms. And this happened even with government schools. Remember when government schools started to say, oh, your kids need to start coming to school looking decent. You need to cut hairs. But then they take it too far. Even in the taking out a measuring stick, taking out a ruler. right? And they hyper focus on, and this is what the parents and students are saying right now, they're hyper focused on the appearance of the students, on the look, on the uniform, and they're asking why. Because in the report, that was not one of the issues that was addressed. The weak indicators has no mention of school uniforms. Now, there is an area in here. Let's do a quick Control F. There is an area in here where it mentions school uniforms. I think it was in this report. And it made a comment about the school uniforms. So let's see how quickly that can search. But the most important reasons why this school got a failing grade. Oh, it says no matches in this thing, but somewhere about it said something about the appearance of the kids, like some of them, a minority or whatever, need to get it together. And so parents are saying, why is everybody going to be punished for the minority? And we see you focusing or hyper focusing on the school uniforms and the appearance of our kids, but we don't see any such thing going on when it comes to the attainment in math and science in the early years, elementary school curriculum, right? Teaching improvements. It says, look at this one. The curriculum in early years, elementary and middle school phases. They're failing all the way through. They're weak all the way through. Health and safety was weak in all phases. Leadership weak. Self-evaluation and improvement planning weak. There's a lot of weaknesses. Some satisfactory, yes. Good qualities, positive behavior, links with parents and the community. Well, after this, they're going to move that right up into the week. Because if they speak to the parents now, the parents not happy. Well, Maria's asking, what about the kids? Well, Maria, that's what the parents themselves are asking. What about the kids? Well, here's what they're focused on. For the kids, they want you to have new haircut regimen. They remove the Friday dress down day, which you would think that wouldn't be a big deal, but believe it or not, kids really, they did like a little donation thing. They donated $1 to some fund or whatever, give it to charity. And the kids actually are saying to me, we need a dress down day. It's the one day a week that we get to express a little bit of creativity. And here you are, taking that away from us. And believe it or not, these kids have survived a lot more than we are willing to give them credit for with this whole COVID thing. Their mental health not really in the best place right now. So anything that disrupts them and their regular routine, oh, mommy, today's Friday, I get to dress down a little bit, is going to be detrimental. And I am surprised that so-called school administrators that are supposed to be experts don't actually get this at all. You know, you have to be incremental with change. And especially when it comes to children, kids don't like change. When we uproot them, we move them to a new school, they become apprehensive. They get stressed out. They take things on board. A lot of parents are not paying attention to how the decisions that they make or that schools make impact their children. In all honesty, we see it in their everyday lives, but how many of us even pay attention? You guys know I have a 5-year-old. So after this year, she can't go to her current school anymore, and she's aware of that. And we have slowly been introducing the idea to her of you're going to be going to a new school. We're like, we don't know where yet. So she's gone to a particular school, and we did a school tour, and they had an assessment. She had to do a reading test. She's done 2 reading tests. And they were like, she's like, oh, is this my new school? And we're like, we don't know yet. You're in a couple waiting lists. When we know, we'll let you know. But it's so interesting that she went to that school and already in her head, she's like, this is going to be my new school. I'm like, no. Slow, pump the brakes. We will let you know. She understands and she knows that in August, she's going to be 6. I'm hoping that she also, because she keeps telling me, when I turn 6, I can sleep by myself. I said, I sure hope so, because I'm ready to get back to my bed. But she knows that shortly after that, she's going to be going to a new school. And she's like already asking questions. Just this week, she was asking her dad, when I go to the new school, what if the kids don't like me? She's already thinking in her little brain, only 5 years old, how am I going to fit in? Right now, she's used to getting up in the morning and picking out what she wants to wear. When she goes to her new school, she's going to be introduced to uniforms. And you're not going to have much of a choice. It's probably going to be shorts, a dress, and I don't know if they have uniform pants, but maybe that's going to be it. And so she's going to have to get used to conforming. Now, the other interesting thing that has happened, they've not only, think about change now. This is what I want y'all to focus on. New haircut regimen. There are students at the school who have natural hair. Now, y'all know what I'm talking about when I say natural hair, right? So it's not processed in any way. It's not straightened in any way. One parent talked about how her son had dreads, kept very neatly, and he had to shave them off, and how that was traumatic for him because, you know, it takes a long time for you to, if you have dreads, to grow them. And actually maintaining dreadlocks is a lot of work if you do it right. And so jumping up one day and said, oh, we got this notice on Wednesday that by Monday, these are all the changes that are coming. Y'all better do it. Didn't give parents much time. Parents were out scrambling for new shoes, which was another change, for uniform. And they're like, you know, the parents who are fiscally responsible and would have budgeted for the month, where am I getting this money from? You're making changes with little to no notice. We don't understand the reason behind the changes, right? For children who are already on the edge a little bit in terms of their mental health. And then on top of that, you expect it to be done in 2-3 days. Parents who have to work might get one weekend, one Saturday, they're scrambling all over the place looking for new shoes. So they now can only wear black shoes. Again, I'm looking at the report going, where did the color of the shoes play an integral part of their failure report? I'm still not seeing it. No more dress down day. No jewelry rule for like some of the older kids. Before, I think the girls could wear like a little earring and whatever. They have some kind of deduction now with some merit system. What else was there? There was the shoes. Oh yeah, there's something about pants that I was confused about. So I think, is it the case that the girls can finally wear pants, but then they can't be too form-fitting? Which is interesting because when I looked at the under the school uniform section on their website, it actually said the opposite. Oversized pants are not allowed. Now they're saying it can't be form-fitting. It has to be baggy. So there is a degree of confusion that has just been added to the mix. Look at this. Uniforms must be well fitted. Oversized shirts and pants and short skirts will not be allowed. Well, now they've changed this. I guess nobody's updated the website yet. Please update the website to say that pants that are form fitting are not going to be allowed. So these well fitted pants, they now want them to be baggy. And they're signaling out specific children. Oh, your hair is not right. You must do this. You must do that. So you can imagine, right? Let's just take the example of a child with natural hair. And you're trying to grow your natural hair in a particular way. And if you choose to style it in dreads, it's normally a hair management thing, right? All of a sudden you're being told, maybe the past 5 years, I don't know how long this kid has had dreads for, you have to cut your dreads. You have physically changed something about this young man overnight with little to no warning, no preparation, no mental preparation for him to even okay, this is a thing. Telling girls that they have to wear their hair in a single ponytail. Or maybe 2 braids at the most. Even me, I was like, that's just stupid. My daughter has a lot of hair. And so for manageability, normally she's rocking at least 4 braids. Just because it's easier to manage. And there are times when we'll take the 4 braids and then we pull it back in one or whatever. But if it's not in her face, that's why she wants to sometimes wear it out. And I'm like, oh, Lord, Gianna, maybe when you're 15 and you can manage it yourself. But she would never be able to wear her hair out in school because it's so much, it would be a distraction. And she's got all these girls and, so I'm like, we'll try as you get older to make that be a weekend thing. On the weekends, you can take your hair out. At school, it's too much. Every day now she comes home and it's got sand in it and debris. And I'm just like, we just try to keep it braided. For school picture day, we sent her to school and we did let it out that day. And then the teachers, I think, quickly recognized why it's always braided. So they tried braiding it back. And honey, child, let me tell you something. That poor woman. The next day when the teacher said, oh, I can see why you keep Gianna's hair braided all the time. Because, oh my God, just them trying to braid it in one, they were like, it's so much. It's so thick. It's like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, honey, child, I can't handle it. So I don't know why you thought you would be able to. Now, I understand the necessity for children to be presentable and to have some standards, but I also think there's such a thing as taking it too far. And at some point you have to ask yourself as a parent, what does this have to do with the price of rice in China? What does this have to do with the weak inspector's report? How is this going to improve my child's education? That's the real question. If they're wearing black shoes versus black and white shoes, and by the way, the shoes are $130 something. So the shoe company is raking in all the money on those school uniform and school shoes and whatever else you guys are required to wear. Personally, I didn't grow up wearing school uniforms. I mean, I would have up until when I left Cayman, right? But I don't really remember much about Georgetown Primary going there. But in the States, we didn't have school uniforms. The schools that I went to, you wore, But my aunt kind of had her own standards. She was a strict woman. So she had her penny loafers. Every year I got a new pair of penny loafers. I only had so many shoes that I could wear. And it was very kind of preppy looking and very conservative. And it is what it was. So you ain't wearing nothing short around her. And I get that. And I think there's a good reason for that. But I think you can also go a bit overboard. And from the sounds of it, all these sweeping changes are going a bit overboard. So apparently the kids have said that there was a meeting with them last Thursday where it was said to them by the principal, and again, this is where I wouldn't approve of this if this is actually what was said. Something she needs some shaping up. And parents are saying, oh, wasn't she fired from Grace Academy and fired from this one? I don't know nothing about that. But I'm telling you what she's alleged to have said, if she said it, is highly unprofessional. So the kid said that she told them that she doesn't care if parents pull them out. So she says, I don't care if your parents pull you out. We want a smaller school anyway. Do you really? Because in my mind, if you keep this up, somebody needs to shut that school down. You can get a smaller school. You're going to have no school and you won't have a job. But why would you say that to kids? That's not a joke. It's not funny. It's not professional. You're expecting your children to walk around prim and proper and be professional and this and that and whatever. And you're being rude to them. Here's another thing that she was alleged to have said. Not necessarily at that meeting, but to a student, where the student said, this was 11th graders. I think one student said something to another student. He didn't understand what the kid said or whatever. And she said, speak to him in his language. And of course, it so happened that one child was a Caymanian. And I'm not sure what the other child was exactly. But the interpretation is she was saying to him, oh, speak like a Caymanian, speak to him in his language. I'm like, why would, again, what language? Caymanians speak English. We might have a unique accent, a unique dialogue in a certain way that maybe colloquially, we've got terms and whatever, but we actually speak English. So even using the term speak to him in his language technically isn't correct. But why would you say that? For a child to then run home and say, Mommy, Daddy, what does she mean by that? I don't speak English? That's insulting. And when the parents first said that, I said, remind me of where this principal is from again? Caymanian would say that and not understand that that would be insulting? So the new principal came on board, just for the record, January the 1st. So she's only been there a couple months. So people say she was fired from Grace Academy. Then she went to West Bay Primary. Then none of the West Bay Primary students had anything positive to say. Like I said, I don't know. My child don't go to West Bay Primary. She certainly didn't go to Grace Academy. So I don't know any parents there, but I'm telling you, this is what people are saying. There is a concern about the caliber of teachers. Let's look at the inspector report. They don't get professional development training. They're hiring geriatric and retired teachers who seem to have a bit of amnesia. Teachers are having students teach themselves. Oh, go online and learn how to, here's a link, and learning how to do algebra or long division or short division or whatever. Teach yourself online. There was some exam that the kids took and they all got the exact same grade. Everybody got a 96%. Parents saying, oh, my kid got an A in Spanish, except he don't speak no Spanish. Never heard the kid even said hola. I was like, Lord have mercy. What? So the parents themselves are concerned. Oh, call in, folks. What's the number again? 936-2626, Bobo. Let me read some of your comments. I'm aware that I've been going on for a minute. Marshall says Roy Bodden shouldn't be in any of those positions. Yes, he might be an educator, but not for these positions. Perla says, and you are saying they must be Christian to be in the position. That doesn't sound right. Even in church, there's corruption. So that makes no sense. No. That's not what I'm saying. Not only do you have to be a Christian, but you need to be a church member of their specific church. Not just a Christian, because the other woman said she was a Christian too, and she goes to church. All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to refresh my screen again because I kind of see it. I don't know why it's like a bit of a lag in my side. I don't know if you guys actually see it. But give me 1 second to refresh. Okay, Lori says, so glad that you're speaking up on this for the parents of the school. Changes need to be made. We're fed up. Maria's saying, what about the kids? That's what all the parents are saying. What about the kids? Cherish says, actually, that was not one of the areas that the school received the failing grade. The reasons were for curriculum, health and safety, not uniforms or adhering to the rules. Exactly. So why is the school hyper-focused on fixing those things when apparently, as they say, if it ain't broken, don't fix it? That's where the effort is now being made. That's where you're stressing parents and children out. And by the way, let me say this about the uniforms, because I did receive a picture of what was sent to the parents saying, oh, this is what we're going for. This is the look that we're going for. This is what we want your children to look like. And we're going to be having you guys purchase these jackets. This is from some school somewhere in the UK, apparently, that is a gold ribbon school or some foolishness. Really? This is what you're looking for? Jackets that, by the way, cost $250. And parents are like, really? How am I supposed to be affording that? Have y'all looked at gas prices recently? My goodness. There's a lot of issues at this school. So black shoes like you see there. Combo only of black. No facial hair as of Monday last week. So some of the senior boys, you know, they're getting into that age group now where they have a little bit of facial hair. They're being told you got to shave it off. I was like, wow. So before it was like you just had to keep it neat. If you had a little beard or a little mustache, you just kept it neat. Now no facial hair. I'm just like, why? Help me understand the logic. I'm a logical person. And if you can explain the logic to me, then I'm like, okay, if it makes logical sense, then, you know, what does that have to do with improving the curriculum? If a child has a little bit of facial hair, you're focused on aesthetics. You think the inspectors are going to be impressed because when they come in, they see your children walk around with $250 blazers and black shoes and non-fitting pants, and that's going to be like, oh, we'll give you a satisfactory mark or an excellent mark. No changes being made to the curriculum, which would have been the first thing had they read the report. What did the report say in the summary? Urgent changes. It says the overall performance of Triple C School was weak. This was because leadership and self-evaluation and improvement planning were weak, and only 2/3 of the quality indicators were satisfactory or better. It says nothing in there about how your children look. Something is wrong. So now you got black shoes, you got blazers coming, $250, no facial hair. They've taken away the one little day that they got to dress down a little bit. Kids are now no longer saying that they even want to go to school. Oh, my man, I don't want to go to that school anymore. They're trying to model themselves after Blue Ribbon School in Singapore. This is what someone said about that. This is what one of the parents said. They said, this is good optics. A $220 blazer is going to change the way you look and improve the educational outcome. How? That's a good question. There was a lot more here, folks. I mean, a lot more. The caliber of the teachers. Talked about the non-prep for the AP exams. Nonchalant attitude of school leaders, including the principal. No curriculum building. No professional development for teachers. No pathway for correcting the failures in the report. They've reached out to government and they're saying that they have no oversight of private schools. 4th grade, the teacher can't teach math. Just gives them a video to go online, watch it on YouTube and figure it out. Teach yourself. I tell y'all, it was a lot. Reporting sessions being held at inconvenient times so that the parents can't even attend. Complaints about the menu for the children, their school foods. So what you have here, folks, are parents who are trying their best now that they really understand how bad things are. And you know what is so funny? They should have been this upset in 2019 when they saw these reports. But what has been upsetting them is what the new principal is now doing with all these changes. And they're like, oh, we got another inspector's report right around the corner. What if this school fails again? What's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen. But based on what is being said, there's no partnership, no competitive education being offered to these children. And they are focusing, as sometimes I say, on the minor. They are majoring in the minor and getting it all wrong. Desiree says, Miss Marjorie Ebanks was principal during my time there. I started 9th grade, which I had to repeat due to the fact that I was not used to the American school system. Miss Ebanks is a Christian, but to her, your education came first. If you weren't practicing Christian, that was okay, but you were expected to comport yourself with decorum. Oh, I think that's supposed to be conduct yourself with decorum. Shannon says it's funny because when I went to Triple C, we had one Bible class and that's it. They've clearly gone downhill since I graduated in 1996, and something went terribly wrong somewhere. When Miss Marjorie Ebanks was the principal, I'm sure the educational side was much better back then. Perla says, imagine if a book from a library has disappeared. Let's see what will disappear from these schools now. God will no longer be welcome at any schools, so I'll be teaching my children at home if that's what it takes. God is first in my life and my provider. Well, he can be first in your life and your provider. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You don't send your children to school to just learn about God. That's what Bible school is for. That's what church is for. And you can send them to church at least probably 3-4 times a week. So they should be getting more than enough of that. When you want your children to learn science and to perform well in the world around them, if there's no balance in their curriculum, and if that's not the focus of a school, then I think you're missing the point entirely. If you only want your children to learn about God, you don't have to send them to school. There's no need for them to read, really. They can listen to the Bible being read to them. I'm just really being facetious but honest at the same time. Crystal says they've always been like this. It seems that it's gone above and beyond now, above and beyond all reasonability. Haley says, was there a child at Triple C that had dread? Sorry, if the rest is irrelevant. I wonder if the child would have had a stance using the E. Grant and Chin principle. We actually talked about it, but I think the difference with this child is he didn't have dreads for religious reasons, because they probably wouldn't let him in school, I bet, if he was a Rastafarian. But yeah, he didn't have dreads for religious reasons. And also keep in mind that that was a public school being challenged. And you know, these constitutional challenges and stuff stand up to the government. It's the government who breaches your constitutional rights and so on, not really private sector. Bill of Rights is to protect you from the government, that sort of thing, not private sector. So it's an interesting point, but we did bring it up with the parent. The parent said that it wasn't for religious reasons. Crystal said, bet they regret not hiring the fantastic vice principal they had. Aquaman says, she said the fees are so high because education cost. Well, apparently the increases were said because they're trying to keep the doors open. Anybody want to call in on the phone line? Feel free to do so. 936-2626. Lori says, so, oh yes, I think we read that already. So, Lori says, we're fed up. Thank you for addressing this. Maria, remember there was a case long ago against Triple C as they would not allow a Rasta child with locks to come to the school, insisted the locks be cut, and the parents sued and won. I don't remember that, Maria. Did that happen? I know there was a case with government schools for sure. Nathina says education needs a complete overhaul. Some schools are doing better than others. Now, there's a whole situation with bullying. That's going to have to be like tomorrow's conversation at all schools. There are these websites, parents, y'all need to be paying attention to what your children are doing. There are these Instagram pages. Someone sent me a video the other day from a private school because they're like, look, it's not just happening at the government schools. It's also the private schools. And there's an Instagram page where they're posting these videos and encouraging people to get in fights, to be able to post up these videos and get some social media clout. Parents, we need an IT course on how to monitor what your children are doing on their phones. And we're going to cover this here on CMR because y'all need to wake up and you need to stay woke. Because one of the components that your children didn't have to, why their mental health is impacted differently than you, that they didn't have to deal with is this whole social media aspect. Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, all this kind of stuff. And you need to know how to monitor your children because some of your children are bullies and you don't even know it. On Friday, John Gray High School had 5 fights, I understand, in one day. John Gray parents, you need to now step up like some of the Triple C parents. By the way, the Triple C parents have signed a petition over 130 signatures, and they're not messing around anymore. So on Tuesday coming, the school has finally decided to have a meeting. Oh, they're going all out, child, because they're going to have refreshments served, where they are now going to finally try to have a conversation. You need to open up the doors, literally and figuratively, to engage in meaningful dialogue, Triple C administrators. And you know, I like Roy Bodden. He's a historian. He's an author, well-versed. But let me say this about teachers or administrators who are no longer really in the system. There's a lot that happened in the past 30 years in education. And I don't think that everything that has transpired, some of y'all older heads understand. Even me, myself, I got to keep up. I got to talk to young people to hear really what is happening on the ground. And they're willing to have discourse with you. They're willing to talk to you. I see most of you saying the jackets are ridiculous in this kind of heat, especially when they're AC ain't working. That's the worst part. Half the time the air conditioning isn't working, they got to open up the door. So, not attempting to insult anyone, but maybe when you've been an educator for as long as some of these people have been, they need to retire. They need to give some fresh set of eyes, fresh teachers, fresh administrators, fresh school principals. Just because you've been in the system for 30, 40 years don't mean that you're the best person for the job. Honestly, you need to rethink who you look at as an ideal educator. Sabrina says, poor kids now have to wake up and shave the little hair that they have. Yeah, the look that they're going for, it's very, very interesting, I must say. Sonia, good morning, says, unfortunately, it's a sad situation and all other private schools have a long waiting list, so it's difficult for parents to move their children. The government needs to step in. The health and safety of our children should be paramount. It should be, and by law, it is. But, you know, government is going to be hesitant. I don't know what the remit is legally, but in any event, they're going outside of these reports that they issue. They're going to be hesitant to come into school and say, we need you to do your job. So, you know, they talk about attainment in English and the language arts being weak in the elementary phase in relation to international standards. That's not good. Because for me, of all the skills in the world that you need, you definitely need good language skills. You need to be able to communicate in this world, whether it's oral communication or otherwise. Science. Even there, attainment was weak in early years in elementary, satisfactory in middle and high school. Mathematics, weak yet again. How many of y'all, before you put your child in a particular school, actually went and looked at these reports? I did. My daughter was 8 months old, and I'm like, okay, she's going to go to daycare. First thing I did was, let me go look at these reports. I went and visited some schools, and some of them are like, oh, your little baby section is dark and dingy. I don't know, but let me go look at the reports and see what an independent evaluation has to say, as well as what my parental little antennas are telling me. Triple C, I'm begging you, for the sake of your students, first and foremost, for their mental health and well-being, their overall sanity, please get it together. The sweeping changes that you've just made is not something that's going to benefit them in any significant way at all. In the real world, people look different. Rich people show up. The Bill Gates of the world, the Jeff Bezos, I don't know who else, super rich. You might look at them on the street and think that they're homeless because they're not walking around in a blazer and black shoes and socks and certain tightly or fitted pants or not fitted pants, or, you know, they don't oftentimes conform to what some of you think are societal norms. I don't know. I get that you can't have everyone being as individuals they want to be in a school environment, because individuality is never really encouraged in school. They don't want you to be different. They don't want you to stand out from anybody else. And, you know, early on, from when I moved back to Cayman, one of the things that occurred to me is anyone who is outside of the norm in the school system, and this applies to both private and public school, the system isn't ideally designed for you. And what I mean by that, and this is on both sides of the spectrum. So if you have a child with special needs that is going to be struggling because they're ADHD, they're dyslexic, they have a learning disability, they have a physical disability, anything that places them outside of this norm, they're going to struggle. But it's not just that side of the spectrum. If you have children that are gifted, that are extremely talented, they are going to struggle as well, because the system is only designed to accommodate the normal children of normal capabilities. And I see it all the time. There are families in West Bay with 12, 13 children. They had one kid that was extremely gifted, smart, and everybody's like, man, he got so many A levels and O levels. And you guys know I'm not familiar with the English system at all. Whatever. AP passes, really brilliant, did extremely well. And where are they today? They're on drugs. They're alcoholics. They're in and out of court. Their lives have been a complete failure despite being academically brilliant. Because, like I said, the system can only, even their own families, can only deal with you if you are normal. Now, I hope that this is changing for the sake of our children. But if you grew up in a household with 10 other siblings, 11 other siblings, they're all normal, and here you come along with your brilliant self, you're going to be picked on by your own siblings. You're going to be beat up by your own siblings. You're different. And there was actually, I'm thinking of a real family when I'm talking about this, because the mother, not particularly intelligent, the father not intelligent, it's just that this one kid was really, really smart. And what she would do, because the siblings like, oh, you a know-it-all, we're going to gang up on you, we're going to beat you up, his own siblings. What she did to compensate is she cuddled him too much. Oh, you come here, you stand in my frock tail. I gotta be mama's boy. And boy, he was a mama's boy, all right. And then all the other siblings like, yeah, even as an adult, he not no good, cause mama always treated him different. And she always wouldn't chastise him. That's because she saw the child struggling to fit in, because he was so academically brilliant, being made fun of because you go and sit down in a corner with a book instead of outside playing football or whatever. And she didn't know any better. She didn't know what else to do with the child. So the mother's instinct is to protect my child no matter what. And if that means keeping him under my frock tail, like the little chickens in the grass and the bush, who will do it? They'll keep the little chicks under their feather. That's what she did. Not quite understanding that only compounded the situation and made it easier for him to be labeled as different and for him to be picked on. This is what happens in families. And if parents are not equipped to help their own children and to deal with their own children, and they don't know that, okay, these are my limitations, I don't know what to do. I need to get help. I need somebody who understands, or I need to learn how to better facilitate the psychological and emotional growth of my child. When you hear about children suffering from depression and mental health issues, the biggest thing you have to do, folks, is educate the parents as well as the child about how to deal with this. This is a journey for the entire family. So Maria says you can't wear a cutoff top to work at an attorney's office. It's the same principle. Yeah, but I assure you that at a law firm, they're not measuring your hair. They're not telling you you can't wear those pants because they're form-fitting or not. Even one of the little young girls said, she is flat. I don't know if I can describe it. She's like, I'm not curvy, but some of my classmates do have more curves. And so it is challenging for them to find clothes that are going to fit and be baggy. And then parents are like, we just bought school uniforms. We must turn around and find money now to buy 2 sizes up because the school wants it baggy. Moya says, you know what is good optics? Passing the actual school inspection report and educating the children to have a solid education, pass final exams. Yes. Because unfortunately, this school is now so tainted by its repeated failures, right? Any child that goes to the school, and I think the parents are recognizing it, have to be concerned that as soon as an employer or another school, colleges, whatever, see CCC, that this child went to CCC, their reputation is already being impinged. It is being, there's a black mark on your reputation just because you went to CCC, when in fact you might be brilliant. But, oh, you went to CCC? We don't know if you actually earned that 96 because everybody in the class got a 96 grade. You took Spanish and you got an A, but you don't know how to conjugate a verb in Spanish. You don't know the difference between yo estoy and tú estás and when to use which, but you got an A in Spanish. Okay. That channel, yes, says, thank you, Sandra. K-Man has no idea how to separate church and state. And there has to be not just church and state here. We're talking about church and school. There has to be a separation. I get that there's a historical connection and there's an affiliation. But your primary remit is not to teach them in school what they should be learning in church. And parents need to, in their minds, also separate the two. Maria says kids should be suspended with homework if they create a problem like fighting at school. Well, let me talk about this for a little bit. And I know we've gone into overtime, and my apologies. Let me talk about this for a little bit because we see this happening in John Gray with all the fights and all this kind of situation. One parent, and I'm going to get her story together. Child, I need another notebook for that one. And I'm going to share with you guys what her child has been going through. We got messages. We got text messages. These children send each other all these threatening, whatever. And I do not believe, let me say this. I don't believe that there's any school administrator out there who's purposely trying to fail your children, or they hate students, or they don't want students to, do well, or, I think they are just not equipped. So when I hear this parent say to me, Miss Sandra, I've been dealing with this for so long. The school promised that they were going to call a meeting with the parents and all the children who, were having this issue, and have a session with them, and all know it not happen. Assaults being reported to the police, and they're like, oh, well, it's kids, so they're taking their time dealing with it. There has to be a better response, and that means a better response time. You nip these things in the bud. You see your children being bullies, which sometimes children can be, and children saying things to each other, you need to address it immediately. You don't wait for months until it has escalated to the point where you have an older brother coming to school allegedly with a pregnant girl who has a knife and telling his younger sister, go to the car and get my gun. So y'all were all up in arms because the kids were saying initially, oh, there was a stabbing at John Green. There wasn't a stabbing. Oh, well, Cayman Monroe got that wrong. Well, do you think we got wrong the fact that that young man was telling his younger sister to go to the school and get my gun? Go to the car and get my gun? What are y'all waiting for? You are waiting for a stabbing, a killing, or shooting to happen at one of your schools before you recognize that as parents, y'all need to really wake up. So I applaud the parents at CCC for finally waking up. Better late than never. But some of y'all are going to wait until it is too late. Oh, Maria, I know. I used to work at Maples. And it was always primarily the English girls who would come in there dressing like they went out to the bar. And it was Tony Travers emailing them saying, and this is back in the 90s, the late 90s. Remember, you're not out to the pub. Come dressed appropriately. You're no longer a barmaid. And I would sit there chuckling to myself because I'm like, oh, he just outed them. They were never a legal secretary in the UK. They were literally a barmaid and just come to the Cayman Islands and fell into a job making $5,000-6,000 a month, and they were just so happy to have that job. And still wouldn't buy decent clothes and still wouldn't show up to work dressed appropriately. I agree that appropriate attire is part of, we all have to dress appropriately. Even when you work for yourself, there's certain outfits that are not appropriate for certain things. So the days that I have to go to court, I know there's certain tops I can't wear. I can't wear certain pants. If I'm meeting with a client, I must dress appropriately, carry myself presentable. And you have to teach your children these things. But I think the point, Maria, that the parents are making, and I agree with the point, is this hyper focus on every detail now of the children's uniform and physical appearance has nothing to do with all the failures of the school. And in fact, there are only a few children whose dress code is a problem. And instead of trying to, make everyone conform in wearing $100 and $250 jackets, that maybe what they need to do is simply address those students. So it says that 27 members of staff completed the online survey. Only 4 staff made additional comments, 2 of which were positive, 1 mentioning dress code issues. So 1 out of 27 staff members mentioned dress code issues, but that's where the focus is going to be. And another commenting on the American curriculum. I'm just saying. Where is the focus on the school uniforms and inspector's report? And all of this time, the school has done nothing to the curriculum. I'm just saying. Students aren't seeing any improvements. In middle school, feedback was informal, so assessment was weak in the early years, elementary and middle school. Summative assessments was regular across all phases. Teachers not providing detailed feedback or indicate the next steps for students. In middle school, feedback was informal. Leaders did not have records of student progress over time. In high school, teachers' use of summative assessment led to support, academic probation, or individual help before and after school. Formative use of assessment during lessons was weak. Lesson starters did not lead to teachers adapting their activities effectively to meet all student needs. More able students who made faster progress often sat and waited for the more weak or played games and lessons because their teachers had not planned activities that sufficiently challenged them. You see what I said to you? When you fall outside of whatever this norm is, even if you're on the other side of things, you're going to lose. Oh, it just started raining in Newlands, y'all. You're going to be on the losing end of things because they're not equipped to deal with you. The same example I was telling you about in the families, I'm just reading it here in the report as well. But now this is in your schools. Leaders did not check student achievement in external assessments against the inspection framework to help analyze strengths and weaknesses in attainment in core subjects across the school. Weak. The curriculum was weak, and weak. This is unsatisfactory. And trust me when I tell you, folks, I don't have a bone to pick with Triple C. I don't know nothing about Triple C. I'm going off of what everybody's saying. And more importantly, what this report is saying, weak, and then satisfactory. I agree, Maria, but I'm saying that the most important thing out of school is the children's education. Parents, you all need to step up to the plate. Yes, there are issues at John Gray, there are issues at every single school. But if the parents themselves are not being an integral part of the solutions, you're going to have a problem. Like I said, I grew up in a very strict household. Probably most y'all weren't even as strict as that. Although, when you tell me that children can't wear pants in schools, I'm like, are we in the 1800s? What kind of religious institution is this? They don't believe wearing pants? Girls can't wear pants. I'm like, oh, okay, we're in that kind of environment still. There were standards. And there's nothing wrong with having standards of dress and appearance. That's good. I remember there was a girl when I went to high school. I can't remember what her name is. For some reason, I think it was like Yolanda or something like that. But she was in my neighborhood and she caught my bus. And so her mom used to force her to wear dresses. And I think, honestly, I think she was a lesbian and she just preferred to wear pants. She was very butch, whatever. And I mean, that's not what I was there for. Child, I used to, when parents talk about now that in schools, they don't have any, the children don't have any books. I'm like, whoa, if y'all saw me in high school, honey child, oh God, I would have a backpack. My poor back would be hurting me. I have a backpack with so many books. And then I have another stack like this big in my hands because I was taking some AP classes, honors classes. And then I'm not the best with math. So I really never cared to, even when I could have taken like AP trigonometry, my little brain was like, why am I ever going to need trigonometry in life? I'm not going to be a science person. I'm not going to be a scientist. I'm not going to be, I liked like biology. So on the one hand, I always felt like, oh, I could have been a doctor because I love biology and I can watch pimple popper surgeries all day long. And I love the natural sciences, the environmental stuff. But when you start going a little bit crazy talking about trigonometry and geometry, I was like, stop it. You're taxing my brain beyond what I want to do. But that's my sign that we got to wrap up the show, that noise that you're hearing, that drilling sound. But at the end of the day, I had a lot of books and I had to go home and crack down and study. So I don't know what kind of learning y'all doing now where you don't have books. But anyway, this young lady used to be forced to wear dresses. And the second she got on the bus, she always had a change of clothes in her backpack. And she would change into pants, and that's how she was comfortable. I remember I used to sit there and look at her in the bus. First of all, I always felt like, oh God, I couldn't do that because if my Aunt Lottie found out, somebody was going to be getting an ass and it wasn't going to be Yolanda, whatever her name was. It's going to be me. So I was like, girl, you do you. You comfortable in the pants, you wear your pants. My aunt wasn't like that. Like I could wear skirts, I could wear pants, no shorts to school, but you could wear skirts and pants. But you parents need to be doing your jobs. You need to be talking to your children. You need to be understanding what's going on in their lives. Keep the doors of communication open because there's a lot of stuff that goes on at school that your children are not always confiding in you in. And so you need to build those relationships. Athena is saying, let's do a march down in front of the education department for change. I would lead that, whenever you guys are ready. I don't think government is taking us seriously because, to be truthful, we haven't done anything as parents that shows how serious we are for the change of our children. Well, at Triple C, the children themselves even inquired about how do we protest what's going on. And they were told you can protest during your lunch break and after school, not during school because you don't want to disrupt anything. But when you see children asking you how to protest, honey child, you know something is broken. It really is broken. And so I'm asking the board Separate your personal whatever. Separate your church affiliations. Put the best people in there for the job. I don't know if it's Lenora Mendoza Heights. I cannot make any assessment on that. A lot of the parents don't think so, but I don't know. But I'm asking the school to get it together. And the success and the failures of CCC is not going to be on just the school principal alone. It is a partnership. It is a collaborative effort between all of the stakeholders, including the students, the parents, the board, the school administrators, the teachers, and the school principal. I'm begging you for the sake of our children. 500, let's round it up to 500 children go to this school, give or take. Because like I said, some have left. If they had a choice and they could go somewhere else, some even pull them out CCC and put them in John Gray government schools, and they say the children doing better. You go figure that one out. 473 students they claim. 70% of those are Caymanians, and if you're failing that many Caymanian children, we got a problem. And quite honestly, that does not make me happy. As a Caymanian who stands here every day and tries to advocate on behalf of Caymanians, but always trying to hold us responsible and accountable, and we must step up, we must do this. But if you don't have a good foundation in life, a good educational foundation, there's only so far you can go. Other issues will creep up. So CCC, please, in the name of God, get it together. At Tuesday's meeting, pray going into that meeting that you, the school, will have an open ear and you will listen to the parents. You will genuinely hear their concerns and work on where their priorities are. That is my wish for CCC and for all schools. Like I said, I don't think Lenora is trying to make your lives difficult. I hope not. But you got to be willing to listen. And you've got to be willing to learn. I don't care if you've been in education for 25 years. You don't know everything. When was the last time you went on a course and you upgraded your skills? Teachers, school administrators, even the board. Y'all running the board, making educational decisions, and you yourselves don't have a clue. It's time for a change. Jonathan says, like you said earlier, the teachers are too old. And a lot of it is about them being not just too old in age, but too old in their minds. And that's a problem. All right, folks, we totally went into overtime. I feel like there was some appointment I had today that I'm just not remembering. But anyway, Nathina says, true, Sandy, parents won't address issues with their own kids, especially when it comes to bullying. Some of these parents have careless conversations in front of their children and kids. So the kids think that this behavior is okay. The kids are suffering because at the hands of the parents. Wow. What a mess. Folks, have a good day. Aquaman says it starts in the home, your first place and training grounds to face the world. Absolutely. Parents should be the child's parents and not their friend. Can't disagree. Yes, parents have you have the primary responsibility as parents, but you can't do it alone and your teachers can't do it alone either. Y'all need to work together. All right, my beautiful people, stay informed. Discipline in all areas of your life, Maria, are important. And you've got to teach children that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We got 2 more days. On Monday, we're going to be on the radio. Now, I need to go confirm with my first guest. Remember I told y'all I had a secret guest coming up? I need to make sure he's ready because y'all got, spread the word. You want to tune in on Monday because this is going to be a hot one. Y'all going to want to ask him some questions. And it's someone who has never been on the program before. That's the only hint I'm going to give you right now. But it's someone you definitely want to talk to. So make sure. Monday, we're going to be right here. And if you're driving to work, you can now tune in to 89.1 Bobo FM. Have a good evening.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.